So I now just want to thank again Corinne and thank Michelle and Meg Mohan for getting us started this morning. And now is an interesting transition point in our program in some ways. So I want to take this moment to introduce Her Honour Salma Lakhani. I first met Her Honour, the Lieutenant Governor of Alberta, in like 2008, when she started to become actively engaged at the John Humphrey Centre for Peace and Human Rights and served on our board for many years. And it's been an honor and a privilege to come to know Salma and to observe her and her steadfast commitment to human rights and pluralism and reconciliation. And Salma was installed as Alberta's 19th Lieutenant Governor on August 26, 2020. We had a close affinity in the beginning because I'd worked much of my life in Uganda, and Salma was born and raised in Kampala, Uganda. And she is a proud Ismaili Muslim who inherited her devotion and giving back from her parents, Abdullah Malik Rajabali, who've been active members in their community. And so she attended the Aga Khan School in Kampala before starting to pursue her post-secondary studies at the University of Manchester in England. And I think many of us know that some parts of the history of Uganda, but for Salma, her life took a really unforeseen and dramatic turn during a summer visit home in Kampala in 1972, when it was announced that the country's entire Asian minority population was to be expelled from the country. And so Salma's parents pressed her to return immediately to England, traveling with her Ugandan passport. And within 3 months, her family was virtually stripped of everything and stranded in England with no funds. And she was essentially a stateless person. But despite these challenges, Salma and her partner, Zahir Lakhani, have made Edmonton home. And we're very blessed for that and become leaders in our community. And we're honored to have her with us today, really as we transition from grounding ourselves in Indigenous perspectives to consider the spaces for those of us that have come to this land in seek of refuge or protection and the different roles that we have in Canada, and as we think about ourselves as settlers. So I want to send my utmost welcome to Her Honour Salma Lakhani for being with us today, and I'll hand you the floor.
Thank you so much, Renee, for that very, very warm and personal introduction to me. I really appreciate that. And it's been wonderful to get to know you as well, Renee, over the last many, many years. So I'd like to begin by acknowledging all First Peoples who have called this place home for thousands of years and who welcomed us here to make our own lives. May we always dwell together on these lands with respect, understanding, and a sincere commitment to walking the journey of reconciliation. And now I say reconciliation. Each one of us has a role to play in that journey. Reconciliation means different things to people, and we all have to find our own place in that journey of reconciliation and now reconciliation. So, good morning, everyone. I'm so pleased to be able to join you here to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights and for the start of the Ignite Change Now Human Rights Convention. Nobel Peace Prize laureate Kofi Annan once said, and I quote, "Human rights education is much more than a lesson in schools or a theme for the day. It is a process to equip people with the tools they need to live lives of security and dignity," unquote. And by having this conference at this time to celebrate the 75th anniversary, we are in that process. You're going to have wonderful speakers, presenters, conversations, deliberations, all of us in the human rights arena. And I am really excited by what is going to take place over the next 10 days. But I'd also like to point out that the process does not stop after the 10 days. It is a process that's ongoing, the education of human rights. And each year we are challenged to revisit the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, to give thanks for the progress that we have made together, and to recommit to the work that lies ahead. And we all know there's so much more to be done, but we're charting the path forward together. We can each be part of the ongoing process through our commitment to making our own communities safe, welcoming, and accepting of everyone. It is important that we are all here to engage in meaningful dialogue, learning, and actions on human rights. To all our participants, the central promise of this home that we share, the blessings of peace, inclusion, equality, human rights, and the rule of law must never be taken for granted. You are all playing a part in leading the way in making sure that these rights are felt equally by everyone who calls Canada home, and we all need to play a role in safeguarding these blessings for all our future generations. And as Renee mentioned, my own life journey speaks to the painful consequences that result from the lack of respect for human rights. As Renee mentioned, in 1972, it was a very challenging year for all South Asians in Uganda. There were some 50,000 of us, and Renee mentioned we were given 3 months in which to pack up our bags and leave. So we lost everything, and our human rights were violated. And our eviction made news all over the world, I'd like to say. And I say every day that we are so blessed that we got out alive. We got out with our lives. We were given the opportunity to build new lives and to come to this wonderful country and helped build this country. You know, Rupi Kaur, the Canadian poet, says that when people are expelled or kicked out of their countries or have to leave, she says it's not sad that we have to leave, but what is sad is what we could have built had we been allowed to stay. And I consider myself really blessed that I have been able to make a good, meaningful life in Canada where my human rights are respected, and I've had the opportunity to contribute to this wonderful country. But sadly, after we left, there were some 200,000 plus Black Ugandans who were killed by the brutal regime of Idi Amin. And those people had nowhere to go. They were killed. And so that never made the news internationally. And we hear of this going on, happening over and over again, the genocide in Rwanda and many other places where people's human rights are violated. So as His Majesty the King's representative in Alberta, I offer my gratitude to everyone who works to promote education, to foster civil society, and to safeguard human rights, both here at home and for our sisters and brothers globally. Your commitment is essential, and every step you take brings us closer to a future where everyone is empowered to contribute the full measure of their gifts to the world we share. I would also like very much to extend my sincere thanks to the organizers of this conference, the John Humphreys Center for Peace and Human Rights, Canadians for a Civil Society, and Writing Relations, for bringing us all together for this very, very important dialogue. Thank you all. And I know you're going to learn a lot, have meaningful conversations, and I hope you will be inspired. I know you will be inspired to carry on the work of education in human rights. And remember what Kofi Annan said, it is a journey, it is a process, and we are all on that journey together. And here I'd like to say it's wonderful to see what we can do when we work together. There's an African saying which goes, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with others. And that is what we are doing every single day. And as I said, we must not stop after December the 10th carrying out this important work. It is a lifelong journey. We have to carry on with it. We have to do the best we can, and we have to deliberate and act on our deliberations. So I thank you so much for inviting me to be here today to share with you a little bit of my story. I am truly humbled that, I came here, as Renee said, as a stateless person, and today I I address you as the 19th Lieutenant Governor of Alberta. And when I was appointed, there was a big deal made about the fact that I was the first Muslim, the first South Asian, the first African born vice regal. And a lot of the questions I was getting were from media. One of the questions that I got all the time was, what does your appointment mean? And I always say, my appointment speaks to the story of Canada. We have all come from other parts of the world to be in this beautiful country and land. And our first peoples are the only people who have been here for always. But we have come from somewhere else. And it speaks to the hope and promise of this great country. People talk about the Canadian dream. But I also would like to say that we have to make sure that the hope and promise that this great country has to offer is felt equally by every single person who calls this place home. Nobody should be left behind. This Canadian dream should be felt by everyone who is a citizen of Canada, who lives in Canada. And this, I've talked about this often. I grew up with an African concept called Ubuntu. And Ubuntu, very simply translated, means I am because we are. And it says that for us to succeed as a society and as a country, we have to look out for the success of each one of us adds to the success of us as a society and a community. And when one of us fails, does not succeed, it diminishes us as a society, a community, and a country. And the work that you are all doing in the arena of human rights. You're all human rights champions. I'd like to say thank you to all the partners, all the sponsors who have helped bring us all together today. Thank you so much. But the work you are doing is very, very important. And finally, I would like to say if each one of us, all of us across the world, wanted for our neighbors what we want for ourselves, we would live in a beautiful world where everyone's human rights are respected. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Her Honor, for those words and those grounding in. When I thought about the transition today and just that importance of that crown relationship when we're reflecting on Indigenous laws and governance and how we shift is such an important part. And thank you for, it's been an honor to have you at the John Humphrey Center over the years, but also just like helping hold us forward. And I think giving us some light and hope within this province, in particular in Alberta. So thank you so much for being here with us and for always being with us in spirit.